Jen with The Travel Woman, and today, welcome to another video. This is going to be the beginning of a whole new series all about apartments, apartment hunting, and especially me finding my dream apartment here in New York City. I have lived in 5 different apartments. This is going to be my number 6, hopefully my dream apartment here in New York City. And as I'm going through this process, asking myself questions to find the best apartment, using all sorts of new apps, tools, websites, and finding roommates and doing all of that stuff, I am going to take you with me on this journey. Basically something that I have hopefully become sort of a pro at because I've done it 5 times already, moving around here in New York City to all different neighborhoods, all around the city, from Manhattan to Brooklyn. I cannot wait to share all of this with you from the beginning to the end. I don't think anyone else has shared this so much and so thoroughly, so I hope it helps you find your dream apartment, and I hope you have fun watching me go through some of the worst and hopefully best apartments I have ever seen in New York City. So, if you haven't already, don't forget to click the subscribe and bell button so you don't miss a future video. And let's get into it. Here are my top questions to ask yourself, sort of a mental preparation before you go apartment hunting. These are the top questions that you need to ask. Think about, just make sure that you understand to help you find the best apartment for you. Okay, let's get into it. Number 1, how much can I spend? Budget is a huge factor when looking for apartments. So you kind of have to think about how much can I spend before you even jump into it. So many people make the mistake, I've made the mistake in the very beginning of thinking, oh, I can totally look at all these apartments. I just want to, see all the pretty, beautiful apartments that I can't afford, and just don't do it. It's going to save you money and time to not even look. Just start with budget. How much can you realistically spend on an apartment, and then go from there. So, honestly, I would recommend, for my level, I have basically found the budget that for apartments here in New York City, where you can find apartments that don't have bugs, that are actually clean in nice, safe areas, are usually around $1,200. I think that is a realistic amount that I would recommend, sort of looking in that price range. If you have a job and you feel like that is in your budget, that is a place that you can really usually find some good gems. I think that people who have found apartments and try to find apartments for just $1,000 is very limiting, especially in the beginning. It's not impossible, it's definitely possible, and you can find even cheaper if you're looking outside of Manhattan, farther out. You can definitely find more affordable options. But I'm talking about sort of the nicer areas, the places that most people want to live, the areas that are close to a lot of things, and you have a really nice apartment that's a little bit bigger than usual, not your average closet apartment. But I'm looking at probably a range between $1,200 and maybe $1,400 for my next apartment. And this is sort of just to give you context of my budget, but think about your own paycheck. Think about how much you make and how much you realistically can spend. I believe this is so cute. There are kids on scooters. I hope you can hear me. But anyways, basically the budget is so important, and this is why I want to spend so much time on it and talk about it and try to prep. It's hard because I don't know what your budget is, but for me, I know my budget. I know that I started a lot lower. When I first moved to New York City, I was like, I'm gonna find an apartment for $800 and this is just gonna happen. And unfortunately, I kept looking and found a lot of scammy, spammy apartments that just weren't really real, or were very sketchy, or were tiny and just misleading from what they actually were. So I had to increase my budget because I wanted to live in a nicer area. I wanted to live close enough to work. So for me, I had to spend $1,000 in my first apartment, and it was worth it. I lived in an amazing apartment in the Upper West Side, but you have to make little compromises. So that's something else that I will talk about a little bit later, of the different compromises that you might want to feel like you have to make to be able to afford a nice apartment and to check the boxes that you're looking for that are most important to you. But in general, budget is important. Think about that first. Think about how much you realistically can spend per month by looking at your paycheck. Make the different calculations that make sense for you and how much you spend. But I want to also say, for budget, you have to keep in mind that some places will ask you for a guarantor if you do not make 40 times the monthly rent. So if that's like a $2,000 apartment per month, maybe you're with a friend or a couple or whatever, that means that you have to make $80,000 and just times everything by 40, and that's how much you need to make in order to sign the lease by yourself without a parent or guarantor or someone else signing with you, basically guaranteeing that you can afford to pay the rent. So you will need to sort of show paychecks and paycheck stubs or maybe tax forms to just show that you are able to pay the rent. That is what a broker or a landlord will often look for. And speaking of brokers, I want to quickly go over, this is possibly another topic for another day, but broker fees. How much do you really need to have prepared ahead of time before you sign for that new dream apartment? So for me, I definitely recommend that you should keep in mind about 3 to 4 times the monthly rent is what they might ask for ahead of time. If you're working for a broker, there will be a broker fee of about 1 month's rent. I don't recommend working with a broker, but if you're totally new to the city and you don't know where to start, you might have to work with a broker. Depends on your situation. But you also have to keep in mind that they often ask for a security deposit, and in addition to the security deposit, first month's rent, maybe a broker's fee, maybe last month's rent, you're looking at 3 to 4 times the monthly rent before you even move in and get the keys. So this is something to just keep in mind before you're looking. You need to have all of that money in your savings account that you might have to write an actual check for day of when you find the apartment, and you might have to write it as a banker's check, something like that, that's basically cash. So just want to keep in mind budget and be a little bit realistic with how much you need to have set aside and ready for moving in. But once you get past that, once you figure out your budget and are all ready with the right numbers, I hope that the rest of this will help you find the dream apartment. Okay, now that we got that annoying part over with, this is the rest of the questions, which I cannot wait to share. Number 2, roommates. I have only lived with roommates here in New York City, and it's kind of a necessity. It is the most cost-effective way to live in New York City. You kind of have to have roommates. If you are a couple, that is another super effective way to save money, because couples can definitely find places that makes it cheaper to live together. But in general, a lot of people come to New York City and they think they're gonna live in a 1-bedroom or a studio all by themselves. And oftentimes, it's just not cost effective. So most studios are often above $2,000, $3,000, and to get a really nice one, you usually can't afford that when you first move here. So I would highly recommend finding roommates. I found roommates and sublets through everything between Craigslist and Roomie, an app, and ROOMI is the app. I really like it, highly recommend it. That's how I found my 2 current roommates, and it's been super helpful. So people actually have to do a background check and Facebook verification and all the verifications so that you kind of know that they're not crazy, but it has been super helpful. And basically, you just live with roommates. It's gonna be okay. Number 3, what area do I ideally want to live in? This is a very tricky question and really hard to answer, especially because everyone has their own preferences and their own favorite areas. When you don't really know New York City very well, this is probably the hardest answer to provide, because you probably don't even know what you like yet. It took me many years to figure out my favorite areas of the city to live and to play. So there are certain places where you want to go out, and there are certain places where you want to stay in. And for me, I really enjoy living and going out in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Brooklyn is my vibe. That is just some place that I love. That's where I'm filming this video. Number 4, where are other friends living in New York City? A great way to figure out your ideal location is to think about where are other people your age living here in New York City. If they love to go out and party and they live in the East Village, that usually measures up. You do have a smaller apartment in the East Village, but you are closer to some of the best bars in New York City. So it definitely depends, but it helps to use context of people you already know. Where do they live in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, anywhere, and think about them. Are you similar to certain friends who have lived in certain areas? That might be a great way to figure out your next dream location here in New York City. Number 5, how much furniture do I have? This will determine whether you have a smaller apartment and you only fit certain things, or you need to get an even bigger apartment to fit certain things. I definitely recommend, especially when you start out, maybe subletting a place that's already furnished, and that gives you a lot of context and ability to figure out your furniture later on at your next apartment. Number 6, how much light do I need? This is such a New York City question, again, but basically a lot of apartments, because the buildings are so close together, do not have the best natural lighting. So you either have a window that's overlooking a brick wall, or you have a tiny window, or sometimes a non-existent window. I have lived in apartments where my bedroom had no window or a tiny window that overlooked sort of an interior courtyard, which could not even be justified as real natural light. But anyways, I definitely recommend, while you're looking, make sure that your bedroom has a window, it has some natural light. That just sort of improves your mood, especially in the winter when it's darker and colder. It's so helpful to have light, natural light. And you know, you can sort of make, if you have to, make do and maybe get one of those lights that lights up. It's like an alarm clock that wakes you up with light. But why do that if you can find a place with a really nice window and some nice natural light? That is really helpful. Another helpful tip is, while you're looking for apartments and apartment hunting, go during the day. Go when you would want there to be light and see how much light really comes through the window. You would be surprised how many trees or buildings nearby can block light from actually getting to your window and, you know, illuminating your room, helping you save a little bit of money on electricity, and just giving you, you know, some natural lighting. So, you know, keep this in mind while you're looking for apartments. It is a very important question, especially here in New York City. Number 7, do I want to cook? This is such a New York City question, it's kind of embarrassing. But here, New Yorkers don't often cook. In big cities, you often have restaurants, takeout, a lot of great options that usually mean that the kitchen collects dust and does not get used. But I definitely recommend getting a place with a kitchen. Yes, that's right, there are places without kitchens, which are cheaper, but I don't necessarily recommend. But get a place with a kitchen, even if it's a tiny kitchen, to see realistically how much are you going to cook, or are you going to go get takeout, and then have that option so that in the future you can maybe go to an apartment that doesn't have a kitchen, because a lot of New Yorkers don't necessarily cook. But I like having the option. I like cooking. Sometimes it is more affordable to cook. Sometimes it is more affordable to have takeout. Depends. The, you know, groceries here are more expensive. So it definitely depends on the area where you live, where your grocery store is, where you're shopping, where you're getting takeout, if you're getting dollar pizza or if you're getting like really nice pizza. But in general, I would kind of think about, do you cook a lot? That would impact, you know, am I gonna get a small kitchen, or am I gonna really value that kitchen space and try to get a place with a little bit of a bigger stove, a nicer, you know, refrigerator, and other options like that, space for a toaster, a microwave, things like that. So thinking about, do you cook, especially here in New York, that is a very helpful question to think about. Number 8, what do I need out of a bathroom? It is hard to find a good-sized bathroom and multiple bathrooms here in New York City, especially if you're sharing with roommates. You might want to think about the ideal number of bathrooms, 2 bedrooms, but it is something to keep in mind. Do you want your bathroom to be closer to your bedroom, closer to the kitchen? Do you want to have multiple sinks? Do you want to have certain things? But keep in mind, it is hard to find in New York City an apartment with roommates that has too many extra bathrooms. So it's just something to sort of keep in mind while you're looking for apartments. Think about, you know, what do you ideally need? Do you really need amazing water pressure in the shower, for example? Things to keep in mind that sometimes you can hopefully look out for and find. Number 9, how much closet space do I need? Not want, but need. A lot of times you will find one tiny closet in your bedroom. Sometimes there isn't even a closet, which is not legal. You are supposed to have a closet to be able to consider it a bedroom. But anyways, think about what you ideally, might need from a closet. Do you want extra storage space? Do you want ideally another closet for storage in the living room? That is sometimes possible to find, but there are other alternatives. If you don't have as much space as you would like, you can always get a portable rack that you can hang in a bedroom or somewhere else and sort of make do with what you got. Number 10, how do I get to work? Transportation can make or break an apartment. If there is no transportation in a convenient place, it is going to be so hard to get to work every single day. So I highly recommend thinking about which trains are nearby, which subways are right there, and which one are you going to be taking to work. If your subway to work is an inconvenient commute where you have to constantly change trains, I don't recommend living there. I think that an easy commute helps make your day so much better, especially getting to work every single day. So think about that, think about which subways are nearest, and go from there. Number 11, any other needs. If you are a couple, or if you have a dog or a cat or a musical instrument, or if you want to have people over and you want to be louder, there are certain things that you definitely need to consider, because some landlords are totally okay with parties or cats or dogs or whatever, and some are not. So you just need to know ahead of time, what do I have, what might people need approvals for from the building, and think about it from there. I'm Jen with The Travel Women. Thank you so much for watching this video of top questions to ask yourself before you move to New York City or anywhere. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button and bell button, and share it with friends. If they are looking for an apartment or are just curious about New York City or apartments in general, the process, I hope you all enjoy it, share it, and I will see you next time. As always, say yes to new adventures. Bye.